Welcome. One doesn't need to be an incredible individual to do extraordinary things. Probably the most renowned things on the planet got their beginning by individuals being in an unlucky spot. A portion of these individuals were the casualties of wrongdoings. Others incited the bad behaviors. In any case, when the grieved settled, the accompanying 10 individuals proceeded to shape the world. 10. The Travels of Marco Polo. Physically bound, Marco Polo's just opportunity was in his brain. He could review a lot of experiences. In 1269, Polo traversed Asia. After 24 years, he at long last got back to his local Venice. Before he showed up, Venice pronounced battle on neighboring Genoa. Banned from entering the city, Polo and his group attacked Genoan authorities. In jail for the assault, Marco Polo breathed easy by telling his cellmate, Rustichello of Pisa, of his adventures in China. Rustichello recorded the stories that inevitably turned into the travelogue, The Travels of Marco Polo. To engage themselves, Polo and Rustichello made a few realities up. A success quickly upon discharge, crowds were presented to Asia and social standards unexpectedly, similar to paper cash and pasta. Moreover, the scholarly if secretive terrains occupied by man-eaters, unicorns, and individuals with canine-molded heads. Polo's definite record of Kublai-Khan's masterful joy arch have enlivened individuals for quite a long time, even outside of pool party participants. Craftsmen, similar to the similarly capable Samuel Taylor Coleridge and Olivia Newton-John, put together works with respect to Polo's endeavors. Christopher Columbus' intensely dog-eared duplicate was a propelling element for his memorable 1492 journey. 9. Mars Candies. By most measures, Frank Mars was a disappointment. Forrest Mars was a triumph. However, Frank was the one rescuing his child of prison that night in Chicago. Frank didn't carry on with a day-to-day existence as sweet as the treats that inevitably bore his name. He got into chocolate due to legitimate need. Stationary because of youth polio, Frank made desserts with his mom. That early enthusiasm for confectionery expressions encouraged a deep-rooted energy for candy. In the mid-1900s, he stressed his union with Ethel Kissick by showcasing the Sweets Marrow bar. The striving business visionary lost 2 organizations and a marriage. Divorced person Ethel moved her and their child, Forrest, to Canada. Forrest Mars, conversely, was a too fanatical sales rep. Subsequent to considering business at Berkeley and Yale, he made thousands publicizing for Camel cigarettes. One task was to guerrilla market in Chicago. Forrest went over the edge and put advertisements on light posts around town. The police captured him for vandalism. With his final $400, Frank rescued his repelled child. The experience revived their relationship. While drinking milkshakes, Forrest recommended his dad add malt to his chocolate. Named after the cream utilized in nougat, the treat was named Smooth Way. Milky Way was the first in a heavenly body of prominent confections delivered by the organization. Mars also makes 3 Musketeers, Snickers, and M&Ms. 8. Griffith Observatory. Griffith J. Griffith, the man so decent they named him Wise. Nonetheless, not pleasant enough that he didn't attempt to slaughter his wife. The oilman turned promoter skilled ages of Angelo's sections of land of open space in his namesake Griffith Park. His kindness suddenly finished in 1903. While traveling in Santa Monica, Griffith told his better half, Mary Agnes Christina Mesmer, "Get your petition book and bow down. I will shoot you." This was no inert danger. Jumpy from alcoholic dreams persuaded Griffith his significant other had plotted with the Pope to harm him. Phenomenally, Mesmer endured gunfire to the eye at point-clear range. Escaping her harsh spouse, she jumped from the 3rd-story window. A canopy underneath helpfully cushioned her fall. She crept to well-being through the wrecked glass of a close-by window. Mesmer clung to life. Griffith returned to drinking. Claiming alcoholic madness, Griffith's charges were diminished to attack with a dangerous weapon. He went through 2 years in jail. To modify his notoriety, Griffith attempted to give more tourist spots to Los Angeles. The city at first dismissed his 1912 proposal of $100,000 to develop Griffith Observatory. Upon his demise in 1919, Griffith willed the city the vital funds. Despite beginning hesitance, Hollywood has absolutely grasped the observatory since its 1935 initiation. A total rundown of motion pictures and TV shows that have joined the structure in some limit would take everlastingly to describe. Remarkable appearances incorporate the area where Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator initially shows up, the passage to Toontown in Who Framed Roger Rabbit? And the levitation scene in La La Land. No film solidified the observatory in mainstream cognizance more than Rebel Without a Cause, where various significant plot focuses occurred. 7. The periodic table of elements. There's an explanation his title was King Augustus the Strong, and not Augustus the Smart. In 1701, the Polish ruler was deceived by Little League extortionist Johann Friedrich Böttger. Böttger's signature stunt as an entertainer was pulling out 2 silver coins, which at that point vanished and returned as a solitary gold piece. Augustus the Strong, accepting this as evidence that Böttger had aced the specialty of speculative chemistry. To protect the logical discovery, Augustus imprisoned the entertainer until he uncovered his secrets. Of course, Böttger was trapped and clearly false. Enraged that he was hoodwinked, Augustus the Strong took steps to execute Böttger. To save his life, Böttger made up another falsehood. European pioneers had since quite a while ago needed to end China's imposing business model on porcelain. Böttger asserted he realized how to make it. Fortunately for Böttger, he collaborated with Ehrenfried Walter von Schirnhaus, one of only a handful, not many European researchers exploring porcelain. Walter von Schirnhaus spearheaded an uncommon stove that could liquefy porcelain down. The couple found it was included kaolin mud and feldspar rock. Rather than making sure about his opportunity, Böttger's understanding was so important he was put under significantly stricter security. The capacity to fabricate porcelain promptly reshaped the European and Chinese exchange balance. Be that as it may, the genuine results of the interest became apparent just many years after the fact. Feldspar mines opened around the landmass. One of them, Sweden's Järby mine, had remarkable geologic stores that delivered unmistakable colors, a definite indication of lanthanides. Samples scientific expert Johan Gadelin disconnected 7 components from Järby, presently bearing the name of the Swedish town. The uncovered components filled key missing holes. Dmitry Mendeleev expected to finish the occasional table. 6. Andy Ann's pretzels. And set of experiences is as turned as their brand name pretzels. The shopping center food court staple was set up to offer budgetary and profound help following misfortune. The nominal Ann was the Amish-conceived Ann Byler. In her mid-20s, Byler's baby little girl, Angela, kicked the bucket in a ranch mishap. In 1975, a runaway farm hauler struck the 19-month-old. The 2 guardians were tossed into a profound misery. Their marriage broke down and Ann straightforwardly considered suicide. She figured she could discover help in the guidance of a nearby minister. He really exacerbated her issues a lot. Rather than mentoring Ann, the minister started a harsh 6-year coercive relationship with her that was defaced by viciousness and assault. Different ladies in the region, including Byler's sisters, announced he had assaulted them as well. Byler initiated effective endeavors to remove him from the community. Byler's better half, Jonas, acknowledged he should assemble an encouraging group of people to help damaged lady get mental assistance. In 1988, to enhance their pay while Jonas ran his free facility, and opened a snack bar. At first contribution in assortment of items, General Society before long transformed their delicate pretzels into a cross-country hit. 5. Hip-hop. A strict heavenly sparkle-shaped hip-hop. Record-setting heat waves, regularly over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, cooked New York City in a pot. Impacting forced air systems stressed the electrical lattice. At the point when two lightning strikes overwhelmed the framework on July 13, 1977, the flood was excessively solid. The city was dove into darkness. The numbers from the resulting bedlam are crazy. For 25 hours, the city was tossed into a power outage. It was immediately lit up by agitators' flares. Pyromaniacs set 1,037 flames that night. Altogether, $300 million was lost in harms. 3,776 individuals were arrested in the biggest mass capture in the city's history. Groundbreaking performer DJ Grandmaster Caz battles that the ensuing plundering was the main impetus behind early hip bounce mass reception. Another yield of DJs got their hands on costly solid hardware that they in any case couldn't bear. Many more unfortunate potential rappers initially investigated taking blenders. Sound systems were in such interest that night that DJ Disco Wiz and his accomplice Grandmaster Caz pulled weapons on individuals attempting to burglarize them. Insane Eddie's hardware chain positioned 8 men on the rooftop to take shots at any likely hoodlums. The power outage didn't make the class. Kool Herc had just facilitated his incredible square gatherings preceding the forced disappointment. It just detonated it. The subsequent abundance democratized the sound all through each of the 5 boroughs and in the long run, the world. For the MPA ratings. William Desmond Taylor's lewd life is prime for a film. It would be appraised R. On February 1, 1922, blood heaved from one of Hollywood's most popular chief's carcass. All police knew for specific was that Taylor was killed. Nothing else about the case made sense. Witnesses gave clashing reports. Some observed a man leave subsequent to hearing a blast. Others asserted entertainer and Taylor's better half Mabel Norman fled the scene. Taylor had attempted to get Norman to stop her cocaine use. Scholars hypothesize drug sprinters fought back against Taylor for costing them a prime client. Another suspect, Charlotte Shelby, was apparently incensed more than 49-year-old Taylor's issue with her high school girl, Mary Miles Minter. The shot found in Taylor's neck was like one Shelby claimed. Confounding the case was the way that Paramount studio head, Charles Layton, planted a lady's undergarments at the seam to conceal Taylor's bisexuality. Notwithstanding, the individual with the most thought process to kill Taylor didn't realize he was alive. 2 days after the homicide, Taylor's mystery life was uncovered. Conceived William Cunningham Deanne Tanner, Taylor had prior hitched Ethel May Harrison. Not making enough prospecting in the Yukon, Taylor surrendered his better half and little girl. The first run-through Harrison saw her ex since his October 23, 1908 vanishing was as an appearance in a 1919 film. Much the same as Deanne Tanner did throughout everyday life, the individual liable for his homicide evaporated. No suspect was ever identified. In the wake of entertainer-related outrages, Taylor's homicide at last constrained film studios to secure their picture. The Hays Code was the main endeavor to control ethical quality. Received by the executive of the Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America, Will Hays, in 1930, pretty much every film in the golden age of Hollywood was affected in some structure. Exemplary films like Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, or Night of the Hunter were essentially revised before creation. By the 1960s, dynamic disruption made the program old. It was along these lines supplanted with the MPA rating system. 3 The Tour de France. In bygone times, you could thrash the president and just go through about 14 days in prison. On the off chance that individuals in 1899 were as delicate about attacking world pioneers as they are presently, we could never have gotten the Tour de France. The setting-off occasion for Comte Jules Albert Didion's genuine wrongdoing of assaulting President Émile But was the deceitful charges against Alfred Dreyfus. The trooper was the survivor of an enemy of Jewish scheme. He was outlined for treachery after Made Proof claimed he sold German officials military secrets. The questionable case profoundly separated the French world class. Comte d'Eon was persuaded of Dreyfus' blame. The recently chosen President Albert was less guaranteed Dreyfus was a covert operative. At Paris Auteuil racetrack, a gathering of protesters trapped President Albert. One of them hit him with their stick. Comte d'Eon battered a police officer with his stick until it broke 50-50. The press generally censured the crowd. Le Vélo, probably the biggest game papers, actually reprimanded d'Eon's conduct. He fought back by framing his own contradicting paper, L'Auto Vélo. Since Le Vélo was associated with bicycle races, d'Eon needed to make a considerably greater cycling competition. That resentful endeavor in the long run transformed into the Tour de France. To Superman. Jerry Siegel lost his legend, so he made another one. In 1932, his dad, Mitchell Siegel, was attacked. A Jewish outsider from Lithuania, Mitchell began a little used dress store. Around 8 o'clock around evening time, 3 men endeavored to burglarize the undertaking. They discharged 2 shots at Mitchell. Fortunately, both missed the retailer, however it was as yet deadly. The fear brought about by the shooting incited a deadly heart attack. 1 year later, Jerry Siegel portrayed the principal Superman experience. It fittingly portrays the Man of Steel saving a business person from muggers. Different components of the comic book character reverberation Siegel's own awful backstory. Both lost their dad at a youthful age. The primary force ever highlighted was insusceptibility to bullets. In an inquisitive fortuitous event, a letter showed up in the Cleveland Plain Dealer the day after Mitchell Siegel passed. The creator of the letter dismissed the paper's call for vigilante equity. He composed that the normal individual didn't require a defender to authorize equity. The letter was composed by a man with the unexpected name, Elwell Luther. 1 Kentucky Fried Chicken. Colonel Sanders is anecdotal. Harlan Sanders was genuine. The refined poultry financier wearing a bespoke white suit is a cartoon, a reflection. The real Harlan Sanders was a vindictive, irritable man. The main thing the organization got right is that he sure adored singed chicken. Residents alluded to North Corbin, Kentucky as Hellfire's half-acre. Bootleggers ran the city through terrorizing. One of only a handful, scarcely any real activities, was a shell corner store where Sanders served food. Neighborhood rival, Matt Stewart, ran his own chain of cafes. To get a major advantage over the opposition, Stewart covered his own trademark up Sanders' boards. Sanders couldn't endure such outrageous disregard. Fittingly, Sanders was no chicken. Gun-hauling Sanders headed to defy Stewart. To go in with Shell authorities, Robert Gibson and H.D. Shelburne, stood ready. Upon appearance, Stewart shot Gibson in the chest. Sanders took a gun out the perishing man. Both he and Shelburne terminated back. Shelburne's shot hit Stewart's thigh, Sanders his shoulder. The 2 men were cleaned up all charges. With his primary enemy carrying out a 18-year punishment in jail, Sanders was allowed to put resources into an independent cafe. Sanders' name proceeded to get inseparable from one of the best organizations ever. Not a bosom blender, Stewart never felt any blame for murdering Gibson. Gibson's family reacted by paying a representative 2 years after the fact to kill Stewart in prison. Thank you.